Does my best friend want my boyfriend?
Don't light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.
Comments about seeing nude photos of your boyfriend. I just feel like that first thing was just so out of line.
It's better to be alone than with people who are like making you feel bad.
In order to actually have self-esteem, you have to be selfish.
Based on the story, like, you are not psychotic.
Welcome
Back.
Soju.
Shotties to Soju with Sarah. Woo.
Woo! That was our third take, and it worked. And Moose wants to say hello as well. Oh my god, how athletic. He unfortunately didn't qualify for the Olympics this year, but
Yeah, he was caught for doping.
oh
Yeah, they caught him.
oh no.
He was doing drugs. Yeah.
Oh, that's what doping means?
Yeah, like performance enhancing drugs.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you meant derping. As you can see, it's a little bit brighter today. We decided to start filming a little early because typically when we film these episodes, it ends up being like midnight or midnight past when we finish. And to preserve our peace of mind and also sleep schedule, we are filming a little bit earlier. But anyways, today we wanted to do another advice column. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done the first one, and a lot of you guys submitted questions since then. I believe the first time around we had like 10 to 20 questions. Now we're at 40 questions, and so definitely a lot to pick from. And thank you everyone for submitting. If you want to submit any questions, advice requests, life advice that you want to give for future episodes where we share people's life advice, then there is a form in the description or anywhere you can find information about the podcast, and please go fill it out.
It is an open mailbox there, so
Yeah.
whatever letters you guys send in, whatever notes you have, we'll address them in later episodes on an ongoing basis.
Yes. And James just woke up from a nap, which is probably why he looks and sounds so disheveled.
Do I look disheveled or just sound it?
No, you look amazing. You look so
you
good.
can look disheveled and amazing. So do I look disheveled still, or?
No, you look fine.
Okay.
Why
Thank
don't you tell us about your outfit then?
Yeah, we'll start with an outfit breakdown. Very simple outfit today. It's a Uniqlo socks. I have the Stussy denim. I think these are the espresso jeans.
You thrifted those, right?
Thrifted. I got them from Second Street, if you can call that thrifting. I guess it's thrifting.
Is it not thrifting? Is it just a like?
It's like secondhand.
Okay.
Secondhand store. Yeah, I guess it's kind of thrifting. And I got the Aimé Leon Dore shirt. And then hair by James.
You cut that?
No, just I grew it. What about your outfit?
Today I am cozy chic. So dress from Urban, pants from Free People. I love my classic wide leg pants, and sweater from either Thrifted or somewhere that I forgot. It's a very beige outfit today.
You look amazing.
Thank you. I wish we did this
A lot of
episode
texture
standing. Thank you.
to your
Yes.
outfit.
You know, honestly, if I take a photo later of how textured this outfit is, I'll just throw it here so you can see. It's a nice outfit. We have a lot of submissions from you guys, so let's hop on in. But before we do that, there's some updates from last time's episode. And I did say last time, if you guys have updates, let us know. Or if you just want to respond to what we said in the feedback we gave, please do that. So the first one is the evil penguin from Gromit and Wallace.
Wallace and Gromit?
No, Gromit and Wallace.
Wallace and Gromit.
Wallace and Gromit responded in the forums again and said, "Hey Sarah and James, the evil penguin from Wallace and Gromit here. Thank you so much for covering my life problem in your latest advice column episode. I feel really supported, and I'll definitely try out the Odyssey exercise you guys suggested. I like how James mentioned that he likes to keep things moving and not remain stagnant. I think I relate to that a lot with anything, so I'll do a deep reflection and evaluate my choices before I continue with my career journey." They also said, "Really killing it with the podcast and with everything you do, sending a lot of support and love from the Wallace and Gromit land," with a heart.
Oh, that's really nice.
Very sweet.
If you want to hear the question that the person submitted last time and what we said, you should go check out that episode.
The other update that we got is there was a question last time about the 6-year relationship that was hidden from their parents. And the question was regarding how to break it to their parents that they're in a 6-year relationship. We were hypothesizing about how old the two people were. They are, in fact, not 6 years old, as we had suspected. They are 25 years old. Thank you for providing that update. And then Elise from Virginia thanked us in the comments for answering her question as well. So thank you, Elise, for thanking us. And those are all the updates, I believe. If we missed any updates, please flag it in the comments so I know. Sometimes there's just so much influx of like form submissions and comments that I might lose track. But thank you, everyone, for the updates.
We are real people who like to read your submissions, and this is a dialogue with you guys too. So keep us updated, submit questions. We love to engage with the community. So
Yes. And before, always so many things to talk about. But before we get into the questions, our drink of the night is barley tea. Just a little nice tea to sip before we go to bed and while we're answering this, because I think tea is pretty cozy. So cheers. Kind of just tastes like rice water.
it's pretty good though. Poricha.
Poricha, is that what you call it?
Poricha, yeah. Cha is tea in a lot of languages, including
Yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah, it's called
And
cha.
Korean and Hindi, I should say, sorry. And then Japanese.
So we had some submissions this time. It's a combination of like career questions, life questions, relationship questions. Actually, a lot of relationship questions. So let's start with one. First question is from Lost Brown Bean. I'm in a long distance relationship for over a year now. This is my first relationship ever. Meeting is not possible for various reasons, which I won't get into. We used to call each other and talk all the time in the beginning. At the time, he didn't have a job, so he was free all the time. Since he got a job 6 months ago, he isn't available all the time, which I understand. But I really love to talk to him on the phone, but he never picks up my calls or doesn't call me back afterwards. He'd rather text. In parentheses, he is not shy or anything. I brought it up multiple times to him that it does make me upset that he never calls me and never answers my calls. He always says from now on I'll do it, but like every time he promises he would, he doesn't call me. I'm so tired of bringing it up. Is upsetting me. Wait, because clearly me telling him it's upsetting me. Wait, I'm my brain's
Do you want me to
lagging.
read it?
Yeah, no, we're
You can
good.
read it, please.
Wait, where am I? Because clearly me telling him it's upsetting me doesn't change anything. I know he loves me, but he doesn't understand that my needs are different from his. For example, he loves it when I send a picture of me after he went to sleep so he can look at it in the morning. I do very much love him, which is the reason why I want to talk to him on the phone in the first place. But telling him that is not making a difference. Sarah, help me with a cry face.
She asked you to help her, so I don't think I can do much here. It's not my place. Wait, so recounting the situation, are they long distance right now?
I think it's long distance, and at the beginning there's some mention of it's hard to see each other in person. Like meeting is not possible for various reasons.
So they're long distance. He prefers to only text. She wants to call, but he doesn't want to call.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm. I will say everyone has different types of communication preferences when it comes to relationships, which is why I think long distance tends to be a little bit harder, because that's when a lot of preferences and how to interact virtually and how to communicate virtually, those differences start showing. And I think we had gone through something similar when we were doing long distance, where we were both kind of the types of people to not really like to FaceTime. We did do it a lot because we wanted to preserve the relationship, at least early on.
That's the only way we can really communicate, right? On a
Mhm.
regular basis. And so we just did it, even though we're not the type of people to want to FaceTime. There's people who like to just FaceTime people randomly,
Yeah.
which good for them. But
Yeah.
for me, that's not how I like to communicate.
And it seems like it's both a time commitment concern in this situation as it is a preference concern, because she did say once he started his job, that's when a lot of the communication fell off. So it seems like there's some amount of like time that he maybe doesn't have that he used to. But I do think it is an active effort to carve out time to talk to your partner. And I do think in a long distance relationship, especially, it's really important to maintain that. However, I'm sure this person's partner, boyfriend, has different reasons for not.
Well, there's like two sides to every story, right? But the way she describes it, at least, and that's all we can get from the situation, does feel like he's being a little unreasonable. Like, that's
Yeah.
my opinion. Because if you're long distance and there's no way to like see each other really, what else is there? Like,
Yeah.
texting is not enough. Like, texting's fun sometimes, and especially like early on when you don't know them that well, it can be fun to text. But I don't think you can sustain genuine connection just through texting anymore, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's an element of like, well, there's many elements. When you're texting, you kind of like strip down to the very basics of just like the words you're saying, but then you don't get like the emotional deep talks. You don't get the in the moment, like back and forth. Sometimes it's just delayed. So I do think, though, if you're in a long distance relationship, both parties have to be willing to make compromises. And so even if your partner isn't the type to enjoy talking on the phone, they should at least try, like put their best effort forward to try to call. Maybe not all the time, maybe not every day, but like twice a week or once a week. Like I feel like that's the least that can be
I
asked.
like the bare minimum. I feel like
That's the bare minimum.
Can you imagine
yeah.
if you kept calling me and I never picked up, and then I just never
Yeah, I
called
would
you
be
back?
pissed. Yeah.
You'd be pissed, and
Yeah.
I'd feel really bad too, right? Because I would know that's not the right to do.
Right.
So I'm guessing this person has talked to their. I mean, they said they
Yeah,
talked.
they said that
and they said I'll
can't
try
just
to get
keep
better.
asking. Yeah.
So I don't know if they're not improving, like especially with long distance, with no end in sight to long distance. It's just hard to sustain that, you know. Like eventually, it will be hard to just kind of tolerate that the same way.
I do think what the person's doing, which is telling them, is good. But again, there's like a limit to how many times you can tell someone something without them changing. And I think there's maybe two ways to approach this is maybe you can try to find alternatives if calling and being on FaceTime isn't as fun for your partner. I remember something that we used to do back when we were doing long distance is we would play games online together, and it would be like virtual Catan or like other little board games that they have online versions of, where maybe it's not just having to like be high energy and talking all the time, but you can just like sit down and engage in an activity together. Another thing that we used to do is we used to watch YouTube videos together, and there's these like dual monitor players.
It's just like these platforms where you can sync up videos together to watch. So it could be Netflix, it could be YouTube, it could be different things. So we used to just watch like videos and shows together on that too. I think doing those more passive things like doing working sessions together, there maybe like they're working and you're working at the same time, and there's no pressure to like talk too long during that call. Obviously, like that's not every single call that you should have, but I think that does alleviate the pressure if this person is more so like not wanting to call because they feel like it's a lot of time or effort when they have to focus on other stuff.
Yeah, my friend who was in like a long distance relationship for more than 3 years, like a really long time, he said that during the work day, like while they're working, they would just FaceTime each other and put the phone like next to their monitor and just be in silence, just like working together. But you can kind of feel the other person's presence through the camera screen. And I think that's really nice if it's something your partner's willing to explore. I guess one more thing to tap into is I wonder if there's been open conversations about why exactly, beyond just not liking FaceTiming or calling, if there's been conversations with your partner about why exactly they prefer not to call back, and if there's an alternative that they would prefer. Like maybe if you mention just watching movies together, playing games together, or just having the camera on while working as an option, maybe they'd be more open to it, hopefully. Yeah, I think removing that whole pressure of having to be actively engaged while on a call does make it a lot easier and a lot better to do it more often. I feel like it's always hard to align completely when you're long distance, especially you can't really always be in the moment with someone. And I do think though texting lacks some emotional element of being in a relationship. So
not related to this person's question, but I was just thinking of those stories that you hear about like parents where they were separated for like 8 years, but they're still so devoted to each other, like they're long distance, but all they could do is like send one letter per month back and forth. Just makes you really like, I don't know, just crazy that people used to do long distance with like mail.
Yeah, but then again, back then people's attention spans were like much better. Like nowadays, I feel like you can just talk to people and engage with people so quickly. And so back then, probably hanging out with friends was also more infrequent, or like talking to friends was more infrequent as well. So the standard's a little bit lower.
So people back then just didn't have social lives. So they just latched onto any person that they came across.
Either that or they had more social life and they just always were out and about and not stuck at home texting.
Yeah, so they weren't sending a lot of mail, huh?
No. What would a love letter from you be like?
What would a love letter from me be like? Next question. Just kidding. I have no idea. It would be lovely and thoughtful and breathtaking, and you would cry.
Oh, wow.
So to spare you that, that's why I'm not going to write you one.
Oh, that's why you don't write me love letters?
I don't want you to have to go into like emotional turmoil just because I write you a letter that's so beautiful.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I really think of you always.
Caring about my emotional state. Thank you for writing in, Lost Brown Bean. We hope things go smoothly in the long distance and keep us updated. You want to read the next question?
This is from Sandy from Nova, Northern Virginia. She says, "Hi Sarah, I'm a 20-year-old Asian American in the US, and your podcast has brought me so much comfort this past month. I grew up pretty lower class with immigrant parents who barely speak English. What was it like once you were able to acquire a well-paying job, and in what ways did you support your parents with that money you earned, as well as taking care of yourself at the same time? I've always been so worried on not being able to fulfill what my parents wanted, such as making enough money to be able to take care of them once I'm out of college. Adulting and responsibilities feel so scary, and as the days pass, I'm not sure what to expect from the future. I'm currently majoring in information technology, but unfortunately, it's something I'm only doing for the money and not passion.
Thank you for writing in. I think this is a very common fear when you're at that age. Pre having a full-time job, I feel like there is a lot of anxiety, especially coming from an immigrant Asian household, where you feel a lot of obligation to take care of your family and provide, because as children of immigrants, I feel like there's an even higher expectation to give back to your parents because of the common feeling that your parents gave so much to come to this new country and give you a healthy, happy life growing up. Maybe not healthy, happy, but just give you a better life than they lived growing up. And so I totally empathize with that perspective of wanting to give back to your family. A lot of the decisions that I made personally up until I started my full-time job, everything I decided was for my family, and that was always the backstory behind every decision that I made. And I totally empathize with the fear of not being able to provide. I don't think that worry ever goes away. I'm always constantly thinking about my family and wanting to help them and provide for them. But I do think that once you have a job and you are an adult and you can sustain life for yourself, it gets easier seeing ways that you can help your family. Because with whatever income you get later on in life, you can find ways to provide. And James and I have provided in different ways for our family.
When you were choosing to become a software engineer, was it primarily for the prospect of supporting your parents through money, and also because you also grew up low income, you were I need to get a well-paying job?
When I was in college, that's actually when a lot of the reality of picking a major and picking a job hit me. And that's where I was really, really looking at the actual income that you can make in different lines of work. A lot of people do know that software engineering and technology pays a lot, which is a big reason why I did go into that field, amongst other reasons, including a lot of my friends being in computer science, but also just the job opportunities that were out there. Because ironically, in high school, I never considered computer science. I took my first computer science class senior year of high school, and I was I don't think this would ever be my major. But then I think when the reality of I actually have to start making money in a couple of years hit, that's when I was really, really considering computer science as a real job for myself and a real option. And so I kind of do empathize on the whole front of this is not necessarily my passion, but I'm going into it for the stability aspect and the ability to support my family and have a good life for myself. We can talk about this in other episodes as well. I do think there's ways to tap into your passions without having it being your job. But I do think also being an immigrant child, there's almost an expectation that you do make decisions to provide for your family.
Yeah, I think if I'm thinking back to college, I also grew up low income. That's something that Sarah and I bonded over when we were getting to know each other during college. But other friends as well who grew up low income that I knew, we used to talk about this, and we used to grapple with our career decisions and feeling we're indebted to our parents to give them more money and support them more with our higher paying jobs that we would hopefully get at some point. But there was always that balance between well, you can't just live for your parents, you have to also do the things that are right for yourself. So finding that balance is pretty tough, and the answer is very different for everyone. I think some things that affect your career choices and how much money to give, and choosing the careers that will allow you to support your parents easily right off the bat out of college. It also does depend on how much your parents are putting that pressure on you.
Yeah.
I think thankfully my parents, your parents, I don't think have ever really explicitly
asked for
support. Been you have to support us, or you have to send us this money. That's just something that we started doing after college because we felt we should and we wanted to do that. I will say my parents did kind of frame college in a way for us growing up as this is the primary way or only way that we know that you guys can have financial stability and improve our family's life and your family's life in the future.
Yeah.
Therefore college is the ticket to getting there.
Yeah.
So I think that was in the back of my mind the entire time, that I am kind of my parents' retirement plan in a way. So even if my parents didn't give me the explicit pressure to give the money, it was kind of implicit in why we're going to school in the first place too. So it also really depends on how your parents raised you and your attitude towards education and career in that aspect. I also think that it depends on how many siblings you have too, because I have 3 siblings, and so even though I feel a lot of self pressure to give my parents money, which I've been doing since I graduated. I also feel like even if I can't do it at some point, it's not the end of the world because I'm spread, like the risk is spread across my siblings. Like my other siblings can potentially provide more for my parents at times if they need to with their jobs while you're an only child. And so I don't know if this person who's writing it is an only child, if they have siblings who are also like capable of helping their parents, but I will say the only child factor like makes it a lot more pressure on yourself. I mean, you can speak more to that, but that is like a different dynamic depending on how many like siblings are in the family.
Yeah, I grew up an only child, so it was a little bit different. I think it was more dire in my eyes. Well, first of all, I think all children of immigrants do feel some amount of self-driven desire to support the family. Family is a big part of who I am, and for a lot of children of immigrants, I feel like that's also true. And so when I was growing up, I kind of did feel the sense of like, well, I am the future of this family and I am the only one that kind of carries the legacy. And so even beyond like finances, I was always conscious that what I did needed to help my family too. And so on the aspect of being able to help support and contribute, I think now that I'm older, I realize there's different forms that takes. Like James and I contribute to our family financially in different ways. So like James sends his parents money monthly, and I don't actively send money monthly, but I try to do large impact, like one-off things. Last year, I helped my parents buy a home, and I feel like that was a different form of that sort of monetary contribution. Of course, that is not something that everyone is capable of doing. I only did that at the point where I felt like I could financially support that. And it did take a couple of years to get to that point, but I had always been working up towards buying my parents a home. And so that was a very valuable time for me. But I don't provide the consistent paycheck to my parents because I feel like depending on your parents' situation as well, they may or may not need that more than like some other form of contribution. But I will say one of the best things that I've been able to do for them as well is just to help them with financial literacy as well, because on top of providing money, you can also provide them opportunities to more smartly invest their money. So with however much money your parents have, if they have any savings, it is also very helpful to help set saving accounts up for them, help set up investment accounts for them. And that has also helped my parents a lot. So I think there's always contributions that you can make that are non-monetary from your own bank account. And I think as a child, you just want to see your parents live well. So I totally understand like the pressure and everything. But I think the point where it gets toxic is when you feel like you are only living for your parents.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point is like whenever you're helping your parents out with money, coming from a low-income background, I think you have to make sure you're not feeling resentful of it because you're sacrificing too much of your own life or compromising your own quality of life just because you feel an obligation to your parents. Absolutely try to help them out, but I think you need to like figure out what the line is for yourself. And I think you know based on how you feel, like how much is too much and how much should you be like saving up for your own future, because that is really important too. And I think that also segues into maybe like a last topic, at least for me. I think once you start making money and you have decided you want to give your parents money to help them out, it's also like how much money do I send them and like how do I give them money? And like you mentioned, your way of giving money is not on a regular frequent basis, but rather it's like for really big impactful expenses. So like buying them a house is like extremely impactful. It's not a frequent occurrence, but it is like a really big expense and like really changes their quality of life, right? So that's like something that you've done. And my older brother hasn't sent my parents money on a frequent basis, I think, in a while. However, what he does is similar. It's like if they have big expenses, he'll maybe help out. If it's like a really big like roofing repair like expense for the house, he will pay for that, but not necessarily like pay every single month. For me, if it helps the viewer, I can give like maybe some more concrete numbers of like how I helped. My first job out of college, I made $80K base salary, and what I was comfortable giving my parents at the time was like I think 300 or 350 is what I started off with. That's what I felt comfortable being able to put away my own money, but also like helping them out in a way that I felt was impactful. And then as I like got some more pay raises throughout the years, and I don't earn anything crazy, but I would just scale up a little bit each time I got a pay raise. So 300 went to like 350, went to like 400, went to like 450. And so for me, I like to just give them money on a frequent basis every month, but it could look different. Like it's your preference on how you do it, and also how, I don't know, your interactions with your own parents too. So
there's also another element once you're a working adult, which I feel like I've realized now is I used to think that earning as much money as quickly as possible would be the best thing for my parents ever. They would be so happy if, I made $1 million a year and I could give them a good chunk of that and take them on vacations and do this and that, because on my bucket list of things I want to do for my parents, it's all that. It's buy them a house, take them on vacation consistently, buy them a lot of things that they couldn't afford while we were growing up. But I realized that the one thing that I never really thought about is how much my parents just want me to come home. Like, every single time, there's no talk about like money or things that they want from me. It's literally just, we just want you to come home more often. And I think if you're compromising your personal life and your time you spend with your family just to make more money to give them, sometimes they might not even want that, They want you to be happy and want you to maybe offer some stuff, like contribute to the family a little, but however makes sense with your like income. But then they also just want to see you a lot. And I think that's really touching. And I feel like I'm going to cry if I keep talking about how much time you don't really get with your family anymore, because time is currency.
Yeah, that's a good point. You shouldn't sacrifice the time you spend with them just to like make more money to give them necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, it does matter how much time you spend with your family too. So
yeah,
I think maybe one last point from me. I think it depends on who this person is in their family situation, but I think generally for people who grew up low income, I do want to say, like, maybe this is kind of a privileged thing to say, but I think it is possible to have a career that you both enjoy and does make you enough money that you can help your parents out. Not everyone can do that, and it does depend, but I think probably a lot of people feel really limited by their career choices because of this, they just don't feel like they can do it. And I do feel like there are ways to make it happen. And so, I don't know, maybe just that's kind of I'm trying to give like an encouraging kind of note.
Yeah.
And I don't think we figured it out necessarily yet, but we are trying to figure it out, and I think it is possible. So we'll let you know if we figure it out.
That's a good point. We were talking about this the other day, that there's not a lot of like literacy around what types of careers you can actually do after college. And so you feel really limited to the things that you know about in college, which is like tech and computer science, business and consulting and finance. Like those are like the top ones. Healthcare too, like being in the medical space. But then after you exit, you realize a lot of people make monies in different ways that you aren't really taught in school. And so sometimes there is a route where you can find something you're more passionate about, maybe not 100% passionate about, but slightly more passionate about than IT, and convert that to like a decently paying job, a well-paying job as well.
I think a good saying that people have is like, don't light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, right? And it's the same way, like on an airplane, when the mask comes down, you should take care of your own mask first before helping someone else. I do think similar things apply in that you do need to make sure you are good and your financial situation is good in order to help your family members too. You can't just sacrifice everything only for them, I think.
You are so good with the examples.
I'm the analogy king nowadays.
Wait, that's crazy. I'm the analogy queen, but you say more analogies now.
Well, I'm the analogy queen now.
But thank you for writing in, Sandy, and we hope we alleviated a little bit of the worry and stress regarding career and finances.
Also, shout out to the DMV. Miss Sarah is also from the DMV here, so.
Yes, I love when people from the DMV write in. It's almost as if they have exclusive access to being on the episode if you're from the DMV.
Whoa, that's a conspiracy theory.
No elitism here.
No elitism.
Okay, this one is a long one, so we are going to condense it a little bit, but we're going to leave the full synopsis on the screen, probably in 2 pages, because this one is a little bit wild and a little bit long. This one is from Delusional Doormat. And
Delusional Doormat.
Again, I love the funny names. Keep it coming.
Yeah.
The question they start off with is, does my best friend want my boyfriend?
Wow.
And basically the context is that this person has been best friends with this other person since their senior year of high school. She's the only friend that I've truly felt like we've had a soulmate type of bond. I still consider her my best friend, but I've been slowly distancing myself the past 2 years. They're both 25. And Miss Doormat has been with her boyfriend for 10 years now, and they have a very strong and healthy relationship. And going into their connection, basically the best friend and her boyfriend went to elementary school together, and they quote unquote dated in 6th grade for a couple of weeks. So they have known each other since they were kids, but they haven't really spoken to each other throughout middle school and high school. But then Miss Doormat started to date her boyfriend. And then her now boyfriend. Around 21 was when they started to hang out together, like the 3 of them. And then they had a really good, wholesome friendship. and she kind of trusted her friend to be around her boyfriend, but then it started to get a little bit weird. And then in the last 3 to 4 years, there's been a long list of crazy things. So I'm going to just summarize and say a few of them because there's a lot. But the first is so the best friend accidentally saw a nude photo of the boyfriend on this person's phone and kind of like brushed it off like, hee hee, ha ha.
Should we add some names in here?
Oh, yeah.
Just to make it easier to distinguish people.
Yeah.
So we have Miss Doormat, who submitted the question.
And then Mr. Doormat.
Mr. Doormat.
The boyfriend.
And then let's call this girl Leslie.
Leslie. Dang, what has Leslie done to you?
I don't know. Leslie.
All right. So basically, Leslie saw this nude photo of Mr. Doormat on Mrs. Doormat's phone and kind of was like, hee hee, haha, oopsie. And then for the next 5 years would just randomly tell mutual friends in front of Miss Doormat that she's seen a nude photo of him.
She would just like joke around about the fact that she'd seen the nude photo a lot. Just kind of weird.
Yeah, like very random weird thing to bring up all the time. And then anytime they hang out with a mutual friend, she'll also mention that she dated Mr. Doormat in elementary school. And, Mrs. Doormat didn't really think that much of it, but she thought it was kind of just adorable, kid stuff. But then why constantly bring it up in front of people, right? The other thing is at least 5 times she's mentioned that Mr. Doormat is the blueprint for a boyfriend and that Leslie's looking for a guy that treats her the way that Mr. Doormat treats Mrs. Doormat. Again, she didn't really think much of it because he is a great boyfriend and anyone would want to be treated the way that he treats her. But again, she brings it up a lot. So lots of recurring things that she likes to say. So there's a lot of other things, some stuff that happened on Halloween. And if you guys really want to like read the whole story, we have it on the screen. But a lot of the times when they also have girls' nights and girls' hangouts without Mr. Doormat, Leslie would always say stuff like, oh, I feel so bad that the boyfriend's being left out and like, kind of just wanting him to be around. Mrs. Doormat has never confronted Leslie, and the boyfriend has not done anything wrong. Every single time there's something weird come up, he just upfront tells Mrs. Doormat. So it seems like he's not in any wrong here. It's just the friend is very, very interested in the boyfriend, always talks about him, brings him up, and has done some pretty shady things.
Yeah, and it seems like whenever she gets an opportunity to hang out with Mr. Doormat alone, Leslie's very like overexcited about it. Yeah, but I think from what I saw in there, what's happened more recently is that they started to kind of distance themselves a little more from Leslie.
Yeah, they did. And then they've tried to like take Leslie out of the equation because originally it felt really fun to have like a trio of people hanging out. But then it's just gone weird since then. And the boyfriend's also tried to avoid her as well.
I think what happened in there, it said Mr. Doormat started to feel weird about how eager this girl, Leslie, was to like hang out with him all the time. And so he started to like just cold turkey, like not really talk to her or hang out with her anymore. While the girlfriend, Mrs. Doormat, is still trying to be friends with Leslie, but it's just kind of a weird vibe now.
Yeah.
And then I think what I remember reading is that Leslie is like very sad and openly sad about the fact that Mr. Doormat doesn't hang out with her as much or talk to her as much. And then I think now it's a very awkward situation and they've all kind of like distanced from each other. I mean, Mrs. Doormat and Mr. Doormat are together, but they're kind of distanced from Leslie now.
Right. And the question at the very end is, something in my gut has been eating away at me and I just can't let go of the idea that she actually did want him. What do y'all think? I could use some outsider perspective. I think without a doubt from this whole long chain of stories, I do think the friend is at least somewhat remotely interested in him, if not like feels like she is kind of in love. Let's not sugarcoat it.
This girl loves this man and wants to be with him and does not like the fact that her friend is with Mr. Doormat.
I feel like it is just actually so incredibly rude, though, in a best friend type situation to be interested in the person's boyfriend. Like usually if that happens, like you develop some sort of feelings, like feelings develop naturally. So sometimes it's like, okay, I guess I can't push it off, but you will try to, as the best friend, it is in your responsibility to take yourself out of the situation so that it doesn't progress further. But it just seems like this best friend doesn't care. She doesn't have that sort of like boundary that she would want to remove herself from the situation. And it's come to the point where like Mr. and Mrs. Doormat have to like remove her.
Yeah, just based on the entire story, again, there's two sides to every story, but here I don't think there is one. Like, it seems like this best friend is just really shady and has been just like crushing on this guy for a long time. I think it's really good that the boyfriend has been distancing himself and
100%.
like has never been shady about any of this stuff too. So, you know, that's a good situation on the relationship aspect. You know, it seems like they're not as close anymore right now, and I guess the question is whether to, one, try to like rekindle the friendship, two, to just like fizzle it out, or three, confront her about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like which of the three would you take right now in her shoes?
Oh, if I were in her shoes, it really depends on the priority of the relationship. I would really sit down and evaluate if it's worth keeping a friendship like that. And if my decision is no, I really don't want this person in my life and around my boyfriend and potentially my family in the future, then I'm okay just cutting them off like that. However, with every friendship and best friendship, there are so many like unclosed doors that I feel like sometimes you do need to just lay it out, talk it through, and confront them just to feel like there's closure in closing a relationship. I think it's ultimately, if I were in these shoes, I would really just want to see how much I do want closure. If I do, then I would confront them. And if this were Sarah from like 3 years ago, I would be so scared of confronting a friend like that. Like, I just had a fear of just talking it out with friends and like being honest about how I felt. But me right now would say, yeah, there's no reason not to confront someone about the shady things they're doing, especially if it's affecting you and you can't get over it without knowing the other person's perspective. Then I would want to talk to them.
Yeah, I think I'm all for like confrontation, honestly, when it's eating at you so bad and you just need to know the truth and just understand what's happening. Because like this person I think mentioned, they feel kind of crazy, they feel kind of psychotic, and they don't want to bring this up because they don't want to be labeled that way too.
Yeah.
And based on the story, like, you are not psychotic. Like, I think if all these things were happening, I would have felt this way for so long too. And I would feel like I need to just like get it out and like confront them and just see what the situation is. Maybe that'll lead to a messy situation versus like fizzling it out. But I feel like that's good. This would be a question mark for herself, like for a long time. And for me personally, I would rather just like
talk it out,
yeah. Understand the truth. If that means you're not friends anymore, then, you know, so be it. Because if that's going to ruin the friendship, then it's like she was a bad friend to you in the first place, right? So
yeah, there's no reason to keep people around when they're not being good friends to you. It is so uncomfortable to have someone make comments about seeing nude photos of your boyfriend. I just feel like that first thing was just so out of line. Like, to mention it once or twice in jest is fine, but for it to constantly come up with like mutual friends as well, I just feel like that is crossing some line for me, just even that first bullet.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, if I were to think about one of my friends like saying that about you, I'd be like, what?
Yeah,
that's just so weird, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have to say any of the other stuff. If you just said that first point, we would have said the same exact thing. You just need to like let that go.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're not crazy.
Let go of that friendship. You know.
You are not crazy. A lot of people would take our same perspective that there's something off about the friend and what they want. It's up to you whether or not to confront, but yeah.
I feel like we try to give good advice in these episodes, but if you'd be interested in seeing an episode where we just try to gaslight people and just like give bad responses and be like, no, you're crazy, let us know. We'd be happy to try that out.
But yeah, hopefully this was a little bit helpful. I feel like all we did for this one was just kind of react to the events.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't have like commentary on like big stuff. Like if you see a monster truck hit a building or something and it's like a fun event that you see, there's not much to say other than wow. That's insane.
Anyways, our reaction to this is wow.
Yeah, wow.
Anyways, best of luck with the situation, and we hope everything turns out okay.
Yeah, let us know how things go. Oh, you are not a delusional doormat. You are a
Illusional.
Very intuitive, very perceptive doormat, I would say. What do you think?
Illusional doormat.
Illusional. She creates illusions for other people?
Yeah, because delusion is... Why is it called delusional?
I have no idea. I wish I knew Latin better. Okay, this next question is from Jellyfish from USA. Hello, Jellyfish from USA. She says, hi, this is going to be a lot. I'm about 22. I'm also the eldest daughter of my family in which my parents are immigrants. I mainly want to share about self-esteem, themes of guilt, and resentment. Within the past 2 years of my life, I've come to realize how much my low self-esteem and confidence had affected me personally and my inner voice. I realized that I held myself and my worth at such a low regard for a long time, and I would spiral into being miserable when things hurt me, and it would be hard for me to stop. I held deep resentment towards friends that hurt me, and I've also held resentment towards my parents because of things they did. It wasn't until recently that I learned to let some resentment go. During the last 2 years, I've also felt like I went through a very intense people-pleasing phase of my life, which tore my identity apart. I also feel a lot of pressure on me to look after my younger siblings and to do things for them. It's very hard for me to understand my own feelings. Sometimes I'd wish to be alone so I could be selfish and do things for myself, but feeling this way makes me feel guilty. How do I go about building confidence and creating a more gentle voice? About letting go of things, about finding myself again? Honestly, advice about anything would be greatly appreciated, and I'm super thankful for having the opportunity to do this. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you for writing in. I feel like, I guess from like an only child perspective, I'm not necessarily an eldest child. I do feel the sense of like responsibility, and it seems like they just have a lot of pressure to like please family members, friends, people in general, because they feel some sort of responsibility to take care and to, yeah, just be mindful of other people with sacrificing their own personal needs and like who they are. Do you feel like you've had a similar experience in the past, or do you feel like you haven't exactly dealt with that amount of like sacrifice and giving?
Well, I think the question was, a lot of it was like related to self-esteem too, right? They have a lot of self-esteem issues, and they're very people pleasing, and they feel like they've kind of lost their identity because they are more people pleasing, and then there's all these pressures of being the eldest daughter and there's people around them that they need to like service them. So I am not an oldest child. I'm a middle child. That's like a very different experience, I would say. But regardless, I think the sentiment is a little bit along the lines of like when you feel like you need to work on yourself, but you're feeling so much pressure to help other people, you just don't have the mental bandwidth or capacity to like help yourself and develop yourself. So it feels like that's kind of what they're experiencing right now. It's really hard to give like a silver bullet type of like answer to any of these questions. I think a lot of it is just like, you just got to work on yourself over time, and over time you will see the changes in yourself, but it doesn't happen overnight. And I think it's really easy to get impatient and like mad at yourself for maybe not being the way that you want to be sometimes. But as someone who has had low self-esteem in the past, and I think I have a lot better self-esteem now, like it didn't happen overnight. I would say it took so much work over the years to like reframe my way of thinking. And I used to like beat myself up so much about like the way I am and like, why am I like this? Why am I born this way? That kind of like internal monologue. And yeah, I don't necessarily have like the best answer on like how you get there, but I think the mere effort of doing it consistently and like trying to get better for yourself, it will over time make the change. I think you just have to be like patient with it.
I think something that I see very commonly with eldest children and also immigrant parents is just the amount of like sacrifice and willingness to just let go of everything in themselves, like self-care, self-belief, their own dreams and goals, just to provide for other people. And kind of like going back to the earlier question about providing and being able to like help your family out. The first line of doing that is just working on yourself, right? Like you have to really give attention and focus to yourself, which is easier said than done, but you really need to be in a good state yourself to help other people be in a good state as well. And I guess there's many ways to do that. Like there's no like one solution for that, but the ways that I think are good to approach that is one, doing things that you enjoy and that make you happy. That can really give you a little bit more self-worth in like the activities that you're doing, because you're going to be doing hopefully things that you enjoy and that you feel good about. Going along with what James said, it takes a lot of time and effort to actually develop your identity and know who you are at the core. And a lot of I think self-esteem issues come from not having a strong sense of like who you are, and that might be because you're people pleasing all the time, so you don't get opportunities to actually have opinions and to have things that you're doing that you enjoy versus what other people enjoy. And so I think like one line of trying to combat that is like putting yourself in situations that you want to be in. And I know like one of the things that was touched upon here is that there's a lot of pressure to look after your younger siblings. There's a lot of people pleasing phases that kind of like tore apart your identity. And there's this desire to be alone and to be selfish. I see this in a lot of immigrant parents actually. It's like the act of being selfless means pretty much like not taking care of yourself and not putting yourself first ever. And like I see it in my mom where she doesn't know what she likes. Like I'll ask her what she wants to eat, what she wants to wear, what she wants to do, and she's like okay with everything because she actually just doesn't know. And I think there's a level of having to make active decisions for yourself rather than passive decisions. Whether that is if someone asks you, you know, what do you want to eat, instead of saying like, you know, up to you, you can decide, to actually try to form an opinion, like really, really actively try to form one, even if you don't have it at the time, because a lot of self-worth comes from feeling validated and having an opinion and being able to like speak up for yourself, do things that you want to do. So I think that's like one thing that I wanted to mention is it's not selfish to want certain things for yourself and to want to do certain things for yourself and want to have other people do certain activities or things that you want. That was a little general.
Yeah,
but
no, I think that's true, and maybe it sounds dumb, but I think doing those small things each day like build upon each other and make you more like, I don't know, it gives you confidence to take up space and like demand the things that you want for your life. Like some small examples are just like, let's say you're at a restaurant and then you order something and the order comes in wrong. It's within your right to tell the waiter like politely,
the order's wrong.
The order's wrong. Like, do you mind if we like correct it, because I did order this other thing? They're not gonna like get mad at you. They're gonna be like, oh, of course, like that is within your right. And I think doing small things like that, just advocating for yourself, does really help to build more of that like self-confidence. And you know, I think that's an act of self-esteem too. It's like, no, I do deserve to have the right order, right? So I guess the only other thing I would say on that is this person's only 22. It's really normal to feel these types of things, and my hope is that this person and other people out there aren't beating themselves up too hard about situations where they feel like they didn't act the way they wanted to, or they aren't the person that they want to be yet. Because like it is a lifelong journey to get to where you want to be as a person and like improve who you are. And so like I think it's good to be kind to yourself while you're trying to get there and not beat yourself up too much, because it's honestly just counterproductive to beat yourself up like that.
Yeah. And the last thing that I want to say on this is also, I noticed in the question, this person had said that they wish they could be alone so that they could be selfish. And I think the word choice is really interesting because selfish has this like negative connotation. And maybe there's this opinion that in order to actually have self-esteem, you have to be selfish. I think selfish, yes, don't be like an actual selfish person. But for most people, when they think they're acting selfishly, it's actually just prioritizing themselves first and putting themselves first. And I think in this case, it's not necessarily maybe that you need to be selfish and just only care about yourself, but that you just need to put yourself first. And it might not be a selfish act to anyone, like the people around you, your siblings, they might not be upset at you at all for just wanting to think about yourself first. But definitely don't put yourself down for being selfish. Like, don't feel bad that you're being selfish.
Yeah, I think it's all about framing.
Yeah.
You could frame anything as like selfish or like you're just prioritizing yourself, and I think this distinction is pretty big there, even if it's like a fine line. And I think you just need to like prioritize yourself, and you don't have to see it as like you're being so selfish for doing that.
Yes, 100%. Anyways, thank you for writing in Miss Jellyfish or Mr. Jellyfish. I don't actually know. I think
Miss Eldest Daughter.
Oh, Eldest Daughter, yes. Miss Jellyfish. Okay. This is probably going to be the last question of this advice column today, but this is from Wandering Wolf from Florida. Florida represent.
Florida represent.
James is from Florida. Lately, I've had to reconsider if I'm more of a burden to one of my oldest friend groups. This friend group is of the past 8 to 10 years, so almost a decade. One recently said I'm brought along more to help meet the minimum number of players for some of our board games, and another jokingly compared me to Woody in Toy Story 1, where Andy tossed Woody aside for a newer toy. This came up because after a few hours, I wanted a break to play a different game with everyone else, and they got upset. I think I might just cut back on how much I'm with them rather than cut ties completely, but I'd like an outside opinion. Thanks again. So it seems like this person has this old friend group, but they're not exactly kind to them and make a lot of jokes kind of indicating that they're
like little digs at them to indicate that they're not really in the friend group or not wanted in the friend group. Yeah. I think the imagery or the reference that they made of like the friend said that they're basically like Woody when Andy tosses Woody to the side because he's done playing with the toy, is like how they've described this friend. It's pretty hurtful, to be honest.
That's really hurtful.
So what is this person asking? It's just like, what do I do in this situation?
They want an outside opinion because they're thinking of not fizzling them out, but just hanging out with them less. But they just want an outside opinion, I guess, on what to do and how to perceive the situation. Well, I definitely think from my end, it seems very disrespectful. Like, even if I have friends that I've been with for a while and like maybe, you know, we don't want to switch up the game, I wouldn't say something just to take a jab at someone, you know, like I wouldn't try to dismiss them or any opinion that they have. And I feel like it's just flat out rude. The one thing that I'm learning more and more is that if friends don't respect you the way that you deserve to be respected, it sometimes isn't worth trying to keep them around as often and as frequently as you would like. And it's okay to let friends go. In this situation, it seems like you're already taking the action to kind of like lean away from that friend group, which I think is the right decision.
Just like consider this your validation that you should kind of distance yourself from the friends based on what you described, because I think life is too short to like make yourself be friends with people who make you feel bad about yourself. Yeah. And there are absolutely friends out there who will make you feel valued, and you should go where you are valued. So yeah, consider this your validation. I think it's correct that you should like kind of fizzle out from this friend group and see if there are other friends.
Sometimes we stick with friends because we feel like we can't find better friends, or just that these friends went through so many similar experiences in life and they know who you are. But at the end of the day, there's so many people you can be friends with too. I think the one question that I have for you though is, if you are this person and let's say you want to try to actively fix the problem and see if there is a way for them to just be kinder, how would you approach that? Or would you approach that? Do you think it's worth
I guess it's
salvaging?
tough. I think it's tough. What I would do if I wanted to get some more like closure, I guess, or like a candid understanding of the situation, if there is a nicer person in the group who is maybe more willing to be candid about it, maybe they can, even if it's uncomfortable, tell you like, yeah, I'm sorry, like these guys don't really like you. They do say stuff about you when you're not around. I think you can take that as your cue to like leave. Like, yeah, I don't think this person should be like messy and like bring it up and like cause a whole thing. But if they really want to know about it, maybe they can try to see if one of the more nice people in the friend group can kind of chat with them about it. But also, I think what people say is like, it's better to be alone than with people who are like making you feel bad. And so I know we said like, oh, you can go out and make friends. Even then, even if you're not making a ton of other friends, like I think it's still better to, you'd rather be alone and like feel better about yourself than be with people who make you feel bad, right?
In friend group type situations too, I feel like there's usually one or two nice people as well. If someone's being mean, that you can at least maintain friendships with like individuals in that group rather than the group itself, if there's someone in there that you actually want to maintain the friendship with.
Do you think you would like clean exit from the situation, or do you think you would try to like figure it out too? Find out some information.
I feel like I always like to know why, and so I would definitely ask around, but that's only if I feel comfortable asking one person or another person, I do think with longer term friendships though, it does feel like such a stab in the heart to let go of that. And a lot of the times there's also an element of like FOMO. If you're the one that exits a friend group, but everyone else is still hanging out, it hurts even more knowing that you're not there. And so if I see a clear way to fix things and have people be kinder, then I would maybe try to look for that solution. But if not, then I would want to exit.
Yeah, and if you need a friend, our cat Moose is looking for friends too. So
after
send in your applications. Yeah, he just got neutered. He's a lot less aggressive. He's really nice now. I think he'll be nicer than your friend. So yeah, just give us a shout. We'll see if Moose is interested and we'll set that up.
He does charge a fee though, so
he does charge a fee. It's like in Japan, how they have like people for hire that you can like pay them, and they'll basically, you can cuddle. There's like cuddle ones, but there's also ones where you just literally just hang out with them like friends. I think we could do that for Moose. He does keep 100% of the proceeds. We are not pimping him out.
Right. Yes. Definitely
wink,
not.
Wink. Yeah, we're definitely not pimping him out. Oh yeah.
Last thing I want to say is I think I recently came to this conclusion too, where if after every hangout that I have with a friend, I come home and I do so much overthinking about my friendship with them or what just happened at, for example, dinner, like if they said something snarky to me or if they said a comment that I just wasn't sure what they meant, it eats at me. Like it eats at me, but it also takes up so much of my time because I think about the interaction back and forth. And I realized recently that when I have those situations where I'm always questioning what happened with a friend, that's my indicator that I shouldn't be around that person as much.
Yeah, I think that's a good like frequent check-in to do with yourself with friends. It's like if you come away with every single experience with a certain person come like really negative or just really drained, that's probably not the best sign. If you, on the opposite hand, are coming away like feeling very fulfilled or happy whenever you hang out with a certain friend, that's like, obviously a really good sign of a friend. So I think it's good to have that like little mental gauge whenever you're hanging out with people.
Yeah. I agree. Anyways, that is the last question. We will definitely do more of these. So if you guys want to submit any questions, go fill out the form. James is usually the one to say this, but if you guys are enjoying the podcast, please go rate us on Spotify and Apple Music. It really helps so much. I mean, Apple Podcast. It helps so much. And we also really appreciate when you guys leave comments and interact with us because it always makes our day. So thank you guys as always for listening. I don't know if you have any last words.
Just thanks for listening, and I always appreciate the opportunity to come here and chat. Thanks for hearing me chat. I don't have anything else to say other than that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Bloopers.
It's bloopers. Wait, where am I? Because clearly, oh
my God.
Here,
do you want me to just start it?
No.
Or just read it all?
No, I can continue it.
Okay, I'll just do it.
No, I promise. Okay. Anyways, this episode's about breakdancing, and James is going to breakdance for us the whole episode. Welcome
back.
Soju.
Shotties to
Soju with
I say two, and then you say Soju with Sarah together.
Sorry. Okay. Oh my God, Thai tea is so good. I have to say Thai tea, matcha, green tea, black tea, pu'er cha, which is this pu'er flower.
This section is riveting. I'm sure everyone's so enthralled by our discussion on teas.
Okay, let's just move on.
They're on the edge of their seat waiting to hear it.